Now let us take another Angakaryam which applies not only in the case of the Nishtha Pratyaya, it will apply elsewhere also. Right now we will be using it when we add the Nishtha Pratyaya to a Dhatu. This Sutram is 7440. Dhyati Syati Masthamittikiti. Masthamittikiti. This opens up a section of 8 rules which goes from 7440 up to 7447. Anuvritti of Tikiti. Tikiti runs down from 7440 to 7447. What this means is that these rules from 7440 up to 7447, they only apply when the affix which follows the Angam. Remember, we are in the Angasyadhikara, which we know starts from 641, goes to the end of 74. So this is in the Angasyadhikara. So Tikiti means it is qualifying the Pratyaya which follows the Angam. So Tadau Kiti. So the Pratyaya has to be beginning with a Takara and it has to have Kakara as a It. Only then these rules from 7440 to 7447 apply. Tikiti. Always keep a track of the Ashtadhyayi. The way Panini has organized the Ashtadhyayi. It is very important to keep the map of the Ashtadhyayi as clear as possible in your mind. So 7440 to 7447. Now this is actually a very simple sutram. The vritti simply says Esham Ikarovantadesha syat Tadau Kiti. So Esham Angana. So if an angam consists of the verbal root which is do avakhandane, which is given as dhyati. Dhyati in this form, dhyati. Remember our vartikam ikshipau dhatu nirdeshe. Here Panini has used the shtip for dhatu nirdesha. Dhatu nirdesha means just to refer to a particular verbal root. This has nothing to do with the Pratham Purusha Ekvachanam specifically. By saying dhyati, all that Panini is saying is that he is talking about an angam which consists of the verbal root do avakhandane. Now how do we know it is only this specific verbal root? Because we know the sutram ota shani has been applied here to get the form dhyati. So recall the sutram ota shani which we have studied, 7371. With the help of that sutram, we can derive the form dhyati from do avakhandane because the gana vikarana is shan in this case and the okara takes lopaha by ota shani 7371. So this we know that this must be the dhatu belonging to divadi gana. That is why Panini says dhyati. So there is no confusion which dhatu it is. So do avakhandane is the dhatu implied by dhyati. Similarly in syati, Panini uses syati to denote the verbal root sho antakarmani, also from the divadi ganaha. The same thing over here. Ota shani applies in the form syati to do the okara lopaha, and then the gana vikarana is shan. We get the form syati. Syati simply refers to the verbal root sho antakarmani. Panini has used 6164 dhatva to replace the adi shakara of the dhatu by a dantya sakara. So syati simply refers to the verbal root shonta karmani. Now the next one is ma. Now ma could refer to a variety of verbal roots in the dhatu partha, and they're given here. They could be referring to ma mane in the adadiganaha, mang mane shabdecha in the juhotyaadiganaha, athava mang mane divadiganaha, athava Ming Pranidane in the Bhadigana. Now recall in the case of Ming, what's going to happen is that after we remove the ending Ngakaraha by Halantyam Tasya Lopaha, then in place of the Ekaraha, there is a Akaradeshaha by Adecha Upadeshe Shiti. Adecha Upadeshe Shiti. Adecha Upadeshe Shiti 6145. Because when we have a Tadaukit Pratyaha following, we know there is not going to be any Talavya Shakar as an it following, so 6145 applies. That is how the Me becomes Ma by 6145. So that Dhatu is also possible in the case of ma. So ma could refer to any one of these verbal roots. Ma mane adadiganaha, mang mane shabdecha juhotyaadiganaha, mang mane divadiganaha, meng pranidane vadigana. And finally the dhatu stha, which is very well known to us, which is sthagati nivruttau. So in the case of these four dhatus, of an angam consisting of any one of these verbal roots, if that angam is followed by a pratyaha which is tadikit pratyaha, which is a pratyaha which begins with a takaraha and is a kit, it has kakara as a it, then what happens? Ikaro antadesha, ikara antadesha. By alontyasya 1152, we know very well that when you're doing any substitution as a default, alontyasya 1152 says substitution only takes place in place of the ending letter of the term being substituted. In this case it is the angam being substituted. We are in the angasya dikara. So the ending letter of the angam takes the ikara adesha, because Pani says it. It is the adesha, because yati syati mastham it, that it is prathama ekvachanam, that is the adesha. So there is a ikara adesha in place of the ending letter of the angam, consisting of any one of these verbal roots, provided the angam is followed by an affix which is takaradi and which is a kit. So a quick example, dhatu sthagati nivruttau. Now, as we know by 6164, dhatvadeshasaha, the shakara takes the sakara adeshaha, then nimittapaye naimittikasyaapyapayaha, the thakaraha reversed to a thakaraha. It goes back to a thakaraha because the nimittam, the buddhanya shakara, is no longer there. So we get stha. Now stha, when we add the affix kta by the sutram nishtha 32102. Now also remember this dhatu is a akarmaka dhatu. Therefore the affix kta cannot be used karmani because it doesn't take an object. The affix kta may only be used either bhave athva kartari. So 3472 allows us to use this kta pratyaya kartari. So we could say, for example, ahamatra sthitaha, I am situated here, I am standing here. So it can be used kartari also, either bhave or kartari. Let's take an example, kartari 3472. Now remove this letter, kakara sit sanya lashakvatadite tasya lopaha. And now this dhatu is anudatto padeshaha, so 7 to 10 stops 7 to 35. The idagamaha, which would have been done by 7 to 35, is stopped by 7 to 10. And now this sutram 7440 comes and replaces the ending akara of stha by a ikara. We do have a pratyaya which is the kta pratyaya, which is a kit pratyaya, which is also takaradi. Remember, when to decide takaradi or not, you have to remove the it letters first. Anubandha lope takaradi, and then so all the conditions are satisfied. So 7440 replaces the ending akaraha by a ikaraha. And of course alontyasya means only the ending letter of the angam is replaced, not the entire angam. And we get the pradipadikam sthita. Sthita gets a pradipadika sanya by 1 to 46 and so on. So this is the sutram which applies in the case of only these verbal roots when the affix following begins with a takara and it's a kit affix.